Ben Carson's hands were as rough as the old docks of Clearwater Bay. Every day, after sending his kids to school, he hustled to find odd repair jobs, fixing broken outboards, patching leaky kayaks, and doing whatever he could to earn just enough for groceries. Life hadn't been kind since his wife left 2 years ago, leaving him to raise 9-year-old Emma and 7-year-old Jake alone. Money was always tight, but Ben had something no one could take from him: determination. That's why the abandoned yacht caught his eye that chilly Thursday morning at the local boat auction. The auction was almost over when the announcer called out, "Lot 47, a 50-foot yacht, heavily damaged, no bids yet." The vessel sat there, covered in peeling paint, its deck splintered and its windows cloudy. Most saw junk. Ben saw potential. His heart raced as he imagined Emma and Jake smiling, standing on the deck of a boat that could be theirs. 500! He shouted, almost without thinking. The crowd turned to look, some chuckling, others shaking their heads. The auctioneer banged his gavel. "Sold, to the dreamer," one man muttered with a laugh. When Ben handed over the last of his savings, reality hit him like a wave. He had no money left, not even for new tools or parts. But as he walked toward the yacht with Jake holding his hand and Emma skipping behind he felt a strange sense of pride. "She's ours now," he told them, trying to sound confident. Emma looked up at the rusty nameplate that read Silver Crest. "She just needs love," Emma whispered. Ben smiled. "And a lot of elbow grease," he added. The yacht was barely afloat. The deck creaked under the steps, and the cabin smelled of mold and seaweed. But Ben didn't flinch. "This boat's seen storms before," he said to Jake, who wrinkled his nose. "We'll fix her up, just you wait." That night, after tucking the kids into bed, Ben grabbed a flashlight and sat on the deck, making a list of repairs. The engine was shot. The hull needed sanding. The electrical system was fried. It was overwhelming, but the challenge fueled him. Over the next few weeks, Ben spent every spare hour at the dock. He woke up at dawn, packed sandwiches for the kids, dropped them at school, then returned to the yacht with his old toolbox. The locals would pass by, smirking. "That thing's a money pit," said one fisherman. Another called out, "You should have just bought a rowboat, Carson." But Ben didn't listen. He worked with a quiet fire in his eyes, his shirt soaked with sweat, his hands stained with oil and paint. Emma and Jake started helping after school. Emma would hold a flashlight while Ben tinkered with the wiring, asking endless questions. "Dad, why are the wires different colors?" she asked one evening. Jake, too small to help much, sat on the deck with a toy hammer, mimicking his dad's movements. "We're a team," Ben would say, ruffling their hair. Those moments, with the sun dipping into the bay and the sound of waves against the hull, felt like the start of something new. Some days were harder than others. A storm hit one weekend, tearing away a section of the railing Ben had just replaced. The next morning, he stood staring at the damage, hands trembling from exhaustion. Emma hugged his waist. "You can fix it, Daddy. You fix everything." Her words gave him strength. Ben salvaged old metal scraps from the junkyard, welding them into place. His work was slow but steady, each repaired piece like a small victory. Engine was the toughest part. It was rusted, corroded, and beyond saving. Ben spent hours dismantling it, cleaning each part with nothing but a rag, patience, and stubbornness. When he couldn't afford a replacement part, he improvised with salvaged pieces from other abandoned boats. "You'd be surprised what people throw away," he told Jake, showing him how to clean a fuel injector. By mid-April, the engine roared to life for the first time. Emma squealed, "It's alive!" She shouted, and Ben laughed for the first time in weeks. Slowly, the yacht began to transform. Ben sanded the hull, layer by layer, until the old paint gave way to smooth wood. He borrowed paint from a neighbor and coated the yacht in a deep gleaming navy blue. He replaced the rotting seats with cushions Emma helped sew from leftover fabric. The nameplate's silver crest was polished, but Ben decided to rename the boat. One evening, he painted the new name in careful white letters, Second Chance. "That's what she is," he told the kids. "A second chance for all of us." By early May, locals stopped laughing. They began to slow down as they passed, admiring the shine of the hull, the clean deck, and the polished railings. "Carson, I didn't think you'd pull it off," one man admitted. "Neither did I," Ben replied with a grin, wiping sweat from his brow. He didn't tell them about the nights he'd worked until 3 a.m. or the mornings when his arms ached so much he could barely lift his coffee mug. All they saw was a man turning something forgotten into something beautiful. But for Ben, it was never just about the yacht. It was about showing his kids that life, no matter how broken, could be rebuilt. One evening, as they sat on the deck, watching the sunset, Emma leaned against him and whispered, "This is our home now, isn't it?" Ben smiled and kissed her forehead. "Not yet," he said. "But one day, maybe." In his heart, he knew he wasn't just fixing a boat. He was fixing their future. 3 months had passed, and the yacht was no longer a rusting relic. Second Chance shone under the Florida sun like a vessel born anew. Polished wood, new rigging, fresh navy paint, and gleaming metal rails made her the quiet pride of the dock. Ben stood on the deck that morning tightening a cleat when he noticed a sleek black SUV roll to a stop near the marina gate. It wasn't the kind of vehicle that showed up here often. Out stepped a tall woman in heels and sunglasses, wearing a cream suit like she belonged in a boardroom, not on a dock. She walked with quiet precision, ignoring the gawking locals, her eyes fixed on the yacht. Ben squinted, unsure if he should speak, but she approached with the calm confidence of someone familiar with ownership. Her heels clacked against the dock as she stepped closer. "You the one who rebuilt this boat?" she asked, her voice low and crisp. Ben wiped his hands on a rag, nodded, and offered a cautious smile. "Yeah, took a while." She didn't smile back. "Not yet." Instead, she stepped onto the boat like she knew every board beneath her feet. Ben watched, confused as the woman slowly touched the polished rails, the varnished wood, the restored cabin hatch. Her fingers traced the carved nameplate. "This was mine once," she finally said, barely above a whisper. Ben tilted his head, puzzled. She removed her sunglasses. Behind them were intelligent, tired eyes. "Charlotte Duval," she said. "CEO of Duval Yachts," Ben blinked. He'd read that name 100 times on discarded brochures. Now the woman herself stood on his boat well, what had been hers. "Apparently, I left this yacht behind 5 years ago," she said, walking toward the stern. "It was a gift from my fiancé. He cheated on me the week we launched it." Her voice was calm, but pain flickered in her expression. "I couldn't bear to look at it. I had the crew strip it down and leave it for auction." Ben nodded slowly. "And you let it go?" She looked around. "I needed it gone." Then she turned to him, the steel in her voice returning. "But you gave it life again." Ben didn't know what to say. His instinct was to apologize for taking it, for not knowing, for assuming it was just junk. But Charlotte raised a hand. "Don't," she said. "You didn't take anything. You resurrected something I threw away. And from what I've heard, you did it on a mechanic's salary with 2 kids and no help." Ben swallowed. Word travels fast. She smiled slightly. "Especially when my dock manager is also my cousin." She stepped closer. "Ben, I didn't come here to reclaim this yacht." He looked up, puzzled. "Ben, why?" Charlotte leaned on the railing, looking out at the shimmering water. Because I needed to see what kind of man would pour his heart into something everyone else gave up on. She turned to him again. And because I think that kind of man shouldn't be fixing boats in a borrowed slip. Ben shook his head. Look, I'm grateful, but I'm not looking for charity. She laughed lightly. Good, because I'm not offering charity. Charlotte took a card from her purse and handed it to him. On it, Duval Yachts, Executive Innovation Division. I want you to work for me. Head of Restoration. You'd oversee a new program, reviving classic vessels, giving forgotten yachts new purpose. Ben stared at the card, stunned. Me? She nodded. You. And not just because of what you built, but how you built it, with care, with grit, with your kids cheering you on. Ben looked back at Second Chance. This boat saved me, he said softly. And now, she said, you can help save others. He didn't answer right away. It was too much, too fast. Charlotte seemed to understand. No pressure. Take a week. Visit our Miami facility. Meet the team. But one more thing. She hesitated, the CEO mask slipping just a little. Would you ever consider dinner? Ben raised an eyebrow. Dinner? Charlotte grinned. Off the record. Not business. Just a woman who finally met someone who knows how to rebuild more than just boats. Ben chuckled. Well, that's probably the wildest job offer I've ever had. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ben sat on the bow with Emma and Jake. He told them about Charlotte, about the company, about the offer. Emma's eyes lit up. We'd move to Miami? Jake bounced. Do they have beaches there? Ben laughed. They have beaches and probably better schools. 2. Emma leaned her head on his shoulder. Do we have to sell Second Chance? He looked out over the water. No, he said firmly. She's part of us now. Wherever we go, she goes. A week later, they drove to Miami, Charlotte flying ahead to prepare. The Duval Yachts facility was massive hangars, testing pools, fabrication labs. Engineers in lab coats worked alongside old sailors in overalls. Charlotte introduced Ben as our newest department head, and to his shock, no one batted an eye. His reputation had arrived before him. When one designer asked about Second Chance, Ben simply smiled and said, She taught me everything I know. That night, Charlotte hosted dinner on a rooftop overlooking Biscayne Bay. She wore a simple dress, her hair down, no makeup. Ben wore a clean shirt and tried not to feel out of place. I'm still figuring out who I am without the bitterness, she admitted over wine. You're already more than that, Ben replied. You built something huge from scratch. She looked at him, eyes soft. So did you. When the night ended, she walked him to the elevator and touched his arm. I meant what I said, she whispered. About a new life. If you want one, I'm here. Ben stepped closer. I'm not sure what this is yet, he said honestly. But I'd like to find out. Charlotte smiled. Then let's start with breakfast tomorrow, Ben chuckled. You know I can fix an engine, right? Not eggs. She laughed. Then I guess I'll cook. Back in Clearwater, Second Chance remained docked waiting. Not abandoned, just resting until her next chapter. Just like Ben.